Alright guys, and now we are back with the showdown between the dinosaurs who shall be led by the Banana Slan and the Empire who shall be helmed by none other than FRANZ. So as far as the build goes, in the front line it's going to be a combination of the standard Saurus warriors with shields. These guys are pretty well rounded against the Empire. They do have a bit of a tough matchup against great swords, but now with the new rampage mechanic, maybe it's going to be a little bit better because when they do rampage, they're going to be getting a +8 melee attack, which could make the difference, but we'll find out. But nonetheless, they don't have the best AP values, but now we have a couple new options. So we do have two groups of the red-crested skinks, and these guys not only have pretty good AP value, so 26 weapon strength overall, with 20 of that being armor piercing, but they also have poison. So they're going to be able to poison the greatswords, poison nearby troops that are fighting the Saurus, and also do, pretty substantial damage against greatswords actually. Greatswords don't have the best melee defense, so these guys should be able to at least put a hole in them. So on the front line, like I said, Saurus and the red-crested skinks. On the flanks, it's going to be a couple groups of the skink cohorts. And those guys are just to go around and just pressure, try and get into the guns, and basically just be a bit of a distraction. So we're going to be going with a very just meaty aggressive build. So against the Empire, I just wanted to try to overload them, right? I just wanted to get so many heavily armored elements to try and push through. And rather than trying to go around the flanks and play that cat and mouse game, although I think that ancient salamanders will be super good here, and that's probably the optimal way to play this, but we're going to be trying something just wild. So we have two groups of Kroxigors. We have the ARK of Sotek, which I haven't really tried too much in multiplayer yet, so I wanted to try it out against the Empire and see if it could quickly melt the front line using its snake trap. It's not even really a trap. That's pretty out there for sure, but we'll see. Banana Slan with the standard spells, Brona's Time Warp, Nets of Amnitok, so going to be buffing up that front line. Anytime you're going with like Kroxigors and a bunch of like infantry like this, Brona's Time Warp is just so effective. In the back, this is where we're getting real crunk. We have the Thunderous one. So this guy is a very, very risky balls deep pick against the Empire. The Empire has cannons, they have Demogryph Knights, they have all kinds of bullets. So this guy could go down very, very quickly, but I want to see if he's going to be able to just monster mash through the front line and really just crack that Empire front line, and from there maybe open up the back before he dies. Not really sure how it's going to go, but I felt like having some fun this game, so we're going to see how it goes. So that's pretty much my whole force. We do have the Legion of Chaqua here in the back, which is very good against Empire. Empire's typically going to run silver bullets, Free Company Militia, or the RORs, which is Sterling's Revenge. So having that missile resist is going to be quite useful, popping the shield when you start to take some heavy focus fire. So for my opponent's army, it's incredibly solid. He has a very, very good force here. FRANZ is great at killing big dinosaurs. Front line's going to be great swords. A pretty natural counter against Saurus. They do well against Temple Guard, especially with the support of some life magic and a warrior priest. And yeah, it looks like the whole front line's going to be great swords. In the back, Sterling's Revenge and the Silver Bullets, both of which have great armor-piercing values, a couple spears in reserve, and Demogryph Knights. So he has a Royal Altar of Griffhites over here, Demogryph Knights with Halberds right here, and a Jade Wizard. So this is like a super clean, efficient Empire army that I think is going to be really good against what I have. I mean, the guns are going to be great against my dinos. He has Demogryph Knights against my Thunderous one. So I'm going to have to, have some pretty crazy play here, pretty crazy plays here to pull this one out, I think. So let's get the show on the road, guys, and see how it goes. So FRANZ is going to be flying out, looking for some opportunities to maybe get some freebies here in the flanks. Might attack the skinks. He could just kind of swoop down there, and I don't really have too many mobile troops. I'm very much playing like a Death Star. I do have Nets of Amnitok, so I could net him down, potentially attack it, but I don't have too many true anti-large tools. The idea was like, I kill everything else, and I just kind of grind him down with the Legion at the very end, and hopefully use the Thunderous one and some other tools to kind of whittle him down. Thunderous one in a dueling capacity isn't bad. It does have 32, 44, and 480 with poison attacks, and of course the Ballista is very, very strong, so we'll see how it goes. So right now, I'm going to be squaring up to my opponent. His greatswords are just waiting happily, and it looks like some of the guns might be scooting forward, but he does pull back the silver bullets. I think he was trying to target the dinosaurs, but they weren't close enough yet, so he decided to pull back. So just going to be patient, wait for the Saurus to catch up. They're a lot slower than the skinks, so it's easy to actually get a little bit of displaced there. But the red-crested skinks and company are going to be charging in, and the Ballista is going to be opening fire on Carl, doing a little bit of poking damage, nothing to write home about, that's for sure. But here comes the little red-crested buddies. So they're going to be charging in, taking some gunfire, which is unfortunate, but we do actually get the charge on these Empire troops, I think, but it looks like he might have charged at the last second, although I think he charged the Saurus behind me, so that's actually pretty good. And you can see we're putting a dent in these greatswords, even with all the buffs, so not bad from the little skink buddies. And the Kroxigors are going to be coming into Pound Town with their paddles to try and help out. And yeah, we should be able to melt the greatswords pretty quick, I think, but the Thunderous one is taking a lot of damage, and the Demogryph Knights are going to be piling in. At this point, I'm going to be pulling back, and I do try and get a banishment, but I just barely missed it on the Sterling's Revenge, so pretty substantial misplay there. Granted, I think he scooted forward, so it was probably just a better play on my opponent's part. So the Legion is going to be popping that missile resist to help the Thunderous one out. I do pull it back for the moment being, and these skink cohorts are going to be jumping up and around the back, trying to get into the gun line. We do have the Bastillodon back here with the ARK of Sotek, so we get him back here. He's ramrodding some of these guys, and he's also going to be popping these sneaky snakes. Now, I don't know how much damage this does against like cav units or missile units, but basically I just wanted to try it out and see how it does. But it doesn't seem to do much damage at all against the Royal Altar of Griffhites, so I think it's heavily mitigated by like armor and things like that. I've never really tried it out. Anyways, over here on these flanks, we really did put a beating on the greatswords. The Kroxigors were able to just bull rush through, but FRANZ is going to be coming in with the steel chair, and I do use a net of Amnitok here on the Royal Altar of Griffhites, trying to keep those guys off the Bastillodon, because he's having a really bad time. Poor Gary, or actually, this guy's a new Bastillodon. We have to come up with a new name for him. But anyways, he's going to be fighting in there. Shield of the Old Ones is going down as well, and we do get the Banana Salon in to fight a little bit, or a Pretzel. Shield should be able to protect him a little bit from this missile fire, but, well, not for a Pretzel, but the Red Crested Skinks are going to be piling in. The backline is relatively open, and the Legion is actually able to beat down the Demogryph Knights. And the Skinks are piling in, so now we have a good opportunity here to get into the backline and cause some pretty serious problems for my opponent. Now, it's a little bit scary in the leadership department. The Banana Salon was taking a beating from Karl. The Skinks were able to kind of peel him and poison him, so I was able to get away. And I was also going to move in the Thunderous One and some of these Croxagors to help out a little bit, but it's a pretty wild fight, to say the least. The Thunderous One dropping some thunder right there. It looks like it actually killed a couple of my own units. Didn't do much to the Empire, unfortunately. But the gun line's pretty heavily compromised. He's done a lot of damage to my big target, so I believe the Ark of Sotek is actually gone, so that was just pretty much a terrible pick. So at the very least, an educational lesson we can take away from this match so far is do not bring the Ark of Sotek against the Empire. Demogryph Knights and guns are going to be too efficient. Now, the Thunderous One has been doing okay. I mean, yes, it's a big target, and the Empire has a lot of natural counters, but it's tanky, and it has been able to really disrupt the front line and do some okay damage. In the back, the Jade Wizard is just lurking. He's actually been back here the whole time. I should have gone and picked him off or something. Maybe sent some Skinks. Who knows? But yeah, basically now it's just a pit fight. We got the Croxagors fighting the Greatswords. It is just a messy fight here. FRANZ is going to be going after Croxagors. Demogryph Knights are just mixed up amongst infantry and monsters. It is a very, very heavy-duty fight, but the back line, the guns are taking a bit of a beating. Sterling's Revenge are offline. The Thunderous One has done an okay job, but those Demogryph Knights unfortunately did come back. As far as kills, he's up to 53, which certainly isn't bad. And the Warrior Priest here is shaken, and the Red Crested Skinks, a very, very good tool against that armor. I mean, they're really working through the 85 armor of that Warrior Priest, and this is going to be pretty good for my forces. I'm able to pop a Baroness Time Warp, get that really juicy buff here. The Shield of Chaqua here is going to be giving that missile resist. So the Dino is really showing that they have a couple really good options against the Empire Focus Fire here. So the Thunderous One is going to be taking some missile damage. He does have the shield right now, so that missile resist is going to be quite useful, but he definitely needs to pile in and just take these guys to Pound Town. Sterling's Revenge just doing quite a bit of work over the course of this entire fight. But I noticed the Banana Salon was actually getting beaten down pretty bad by Karl, so I popped all the different buffs on the Banana Salon, and I just go in after Karl, I net him down, and I try and get some heavy damage, but the Warrior Priest and company are really standing pretty firm in here. But I need to do some damage to Karl. He's just such a beast, and I'm pretty sure my opponent's running a little bit light on healing. His Overcast have actually done some pretty big damage with the Jade Wizard, who's seriously just like on vacation back here. A couple Empire troops over here on the flanks could be coming back. We have the Silver Bullets, we have Great Swords, we have some Spears. So basically at this point, I get my old buddy, and you guys need to let me know in the comment section below, what do you think we should have be the ceremonial name for the Bastillodons with the Ark of Sotek? We have Gary and George for the other two, for the Rev Crystal and the Laser Dino, but for this guy, I think he needs his own name. So maybe just some like generic, super like, you know, some, just come up with something, guys. We'll figure it out. So Banishment is going to be getting dropped in the back by the Banana Salon on top of the Spearman. I was trying to get on the Sterling's Revenge, but it did just kind of go into the Spearman, which is okay. And the pit fight's underway, but the bounce power is a little bit in my opponent's favor. It seems like a lot of my forces are kind of faltering, and the Empire Spearman, with the support of the Warrior Priest and FRANZ and his Terror, I believe he's getting some pretty big terror routes on the source. He's actually starting to come back here a little bit. I actually felt like I was in good shape, but the Empire, being very much a fourth quarter faction, is going to be coming back here and beating down my forces. So the Thunderous One to the back going to be taking Galmaraz right in the rear, and he is going to be going down, and he certainly creates some thunder as he does fall. But the Spearmen holding well, Croxagors, all these other guys have a little bit of trouble, but the Demogryph Knights actually overextend a little bit, so the Royal Outdwarf Fights pile in, but now they're going to be getting just a beating from all circles. Croxagors and Skinks and Saurus Warriors should be able to drag these guys down. The Banana Salon dropping some magic of his own, and with that you can see the Royal Outdwarf Fights are steady, actually. I'm surprised they're steady. I mean, they have like 500 HP, and they're in a really bad situation. They're actually able to terror out some of my Croxagors. No, they don't. They actually just break them off, but hopefully we can break these guys and try and re-rally this fight. So the Legion of Chaqua is going to be popping in here, and they don't have the best engagement here, but they still do have 51 melee defense, so at the very least, they're going to be able to hold for quite some time and just absorb my opponent's focus. Karl Franz has just been an absolute beast this entire game. My opponent has had some outstanding micro with Karl, just flying around, going after the high priority targets, making sure to stay out of danger's way. And the times he did get caught wasn't too bad. My army doesn't have too much anti-large really. I was more focused on just blitzing through and just getting into the back line, but I don't know, we'll see. It's a very, very close game here. Bounce Empire is pretty much dead even. The Saurus Warriors with shields are going to be jumping onto the Sterling's Revenge, which is quite good, but Karl Franz is certainly on peeling duty. And the Ark of Sotek up on the high ground, able to serve a purpose here, is going to be chasing down these Silver Bullets. So at the very least, you know, he's chasing something, you know, of value off the battlefield. And a lot of my dinos are coming back, so we have another just pit fight here. The bounce of power is just so even. Saurus Warriors getting in there, Red Crested Skinks going to be poisoning these guys, Banana Salon's getting in there, Croxagors are in there. It is just a messy fight, and we should be able to grind down that Warrior Priest, but there are some guns for the Empire back online. Skinks and Saurus coming from all directions. I do have a couple Croxagors who just rallied back here, so getting those 4 models back will certainly help in just a moment when I remember. With the Warrior Priest down to about 1000 HP, negative 18 leadership, we should be able to break him, which is going to be huge. And with that, you can see the bounce bar does kind of creep back in my favor a little bit. And Karl Franz is going to be jumping in, trying to beat down my Banana Salon, and he's certainly doing a good job. But Barona's Time Warp is giving this mobility scooter some pretty good wheels right here, so he's going to be rolling in the deep. Though it looks like it just wore off. But anyways, at this point, I'm like, you know what? We got to do some damage to Karl. He has relatively low melee defense, so let's just pile in, even with the Banana Salon, and try and pin him in. And we're getting some okay damage. It's not a bad situation. The Empire doesn't have too much left. They have some Demogryph Knights. The Warrior Priest is probably going to be coming back, I would imagine. But this is huge. The Royal Demogryph Knights coming in with a rear charge, and they actually tear out the surround on Karl Franz. So suddenly my plan goes out the window. The Banana Salon is going to be getting beaten down pretty bad here. Karl Franz just straight up feasting on this banana. Definitely not good for me. So he's going to be broken, and he's going to be rolling away on a scooter. The Legion is doing some okay damage. The Legion of Chaqua here, a very, very solid regiment for now. Probably one of the best on the Lizardmen roster. I'm getting that missile resist is very good, but even as a standalone anti-large unit, they're very, very tanky and very solid. So we're going to be polishing off these Demogryph Knights. Over here, I'm able to get a decent round with some Saurus and some Skinks on top of the Jade Wizard, which is very, very good. Getting rid of that healing could give me kind of a window to get back. Karl Franz still has a little bit of healing he could receive, and also if he's able to get Karl plus his Warrior Priest healed, that could actually be a pretty bad situation. So we go back here with the Spears. We're going to be trying to get this caster, and we get him broken, but he's probably not going to get killed. He's probably going to be able to squeak away there, which is really unfortunate. You can see that our Ark of Sotek is going to be returning from his great exodus there, chasing off these silver bullets, which eventually wasn't worth it. I probably should have just brought him back to the main fight, but at the very least, I mean, those guns could have made a difference, even though it's only 16. So we're going to be chasing those guys off. Some Croc scores. I believe we re-rally those guys to try and finish off the Warrior Priest. So it's a pretty even fight, but it's going to be tough. Karl Franz does have the silver bullets. Man, I should really just chase those guys off the battlefield. And he does get the Earthblood, so that was a really unfortunate thing for my opponent. He gets the Earthblood on the Warrior Priest, but he just shattered like a moment later from the Croc scores being too close to him, so man, that was a really bad luck, so my apologies to my opponent there. But nonetheless, Karl Franz, the Emperor, is here. He is ready to go, and he's going to be getting ready for the final charge. So right now, my opponent and I just, I think we were actually chatting a little bit. We're like, man, this has been such a good game. So the Saurus and the Legion are going to be moving in, and the guns are going to be opening up, and Karl Franz, the Emperor, is going to be flying in. And is he going to be able to break this? We have the Legion. We have the Ark of Sotek with some poisons. We could poison him, which could be relatively useful, I suppose. So we pop that right now. It doesn't hurt our own troops. The Legion are going to be popping in, but Karl Franz is a force of nature. So the snakes are everywhere. But look at this. All of my troops are going to be terrorizing right here. The silver bullets are going to be shooting in, and Karl Franz is just too much to handle. So very well played to my opponent. That was an outstanding game. It was really fun. In playing games like that, using these very unorthodox picks is really how you learn like what's good in the roster and what things might be like, kind of niche all-stars. But there was a couple things that were just super suboptimal. I kind of had a feeling going in that the Bastiladon wouldn't be that good, but I wanted to see if the poison in the front line could be a variable to break me through faster, but it was just a huge waste of money, to be honest. He just did not do good work. So the Bastiladon with Ark of Sotek was a bit of a failure in terms of the experiment. The Legion is really good. I would keep them. The front line did pretty well. I mean, we were able to bash down those great swords. The Red-Crested Skinks did a good job. And the Thunderous one was okay. Even though my opponent had a ton of hard counters, this guy still stood and fought and did some okay damage, but I feel like neither of these were worth it. I just really wanted to force him in and see if I could make them work. But, against a good Empire player like Maurice over here, he had the proper build, he had the guns. You just can't get away with it. So on that note, after this, I'll go ahead and show you guys a build that I think would be quite a bit better against the Empire, and very well played to my opponent Maurice of Nassau. He played extremely well, had a good build, and he did the Emperor proud, which is always good to see. So on that note, let's go ahead and jump over to the build here. So let's do this. I got so many replays for you guys. It's going to be good. All right. So if we were playing in like a tournament or something and we wanted to have like a really cutthroat build against the Empire, let's go ahead and do a little bit of theory crafting. So 10 and Weenie can be pretty good. I mean, getting Manticore summons I think is always pretty solid. Now, is there any mount options we want to give him? I mean, the Horned one's not bad. Putting him on the Velociraptor makes him a pretty decent duelist. Now, he does get poisoned to all nearby troops, which I think is quite solid. And this might actually be a matchup in which Lord Crow could be good, dropping the bombardments, but no, I think just going Manticore summons is going to be a little bit safer. So let's get a Skink Chief with Beasts, I think is going to be what we do. So we're just going to put him up in his little pterodactyl here, just so he can actually get away from threats. And he's mainly just going to be sitting in the back, like dropping these. And as far as the leadership goes, I think we'd probably go with like a Saurus Old Blood on top of his... Carnosaur is a little bit of a big target, so we'd probably just put him on an Old Blood here. We can give him the Horn of Kygor, which is going to be super good. And from there, we can... that actually works pretty well with like the Horn 1 Blitz. The Manticore Summon is just so good, but we could actually just get like a... No, we don't want you on that mount. We could get like a Wyson's Wild Farm and like overcast that. Or the Curse. The Curse is actually pretty good. I'm trying to think of like alpha striking style of play. So if we want to like fight enemy lords, lowering melee attack and speed is always pretty good. So we can go with something like this. The front line, I do think the Red-Crested Skinks have a pretty serious home here. From there, we get a couple Saurus. I really think the front line was decent. Even without buffs, they seem to be pretty efficient. We'll get a couple cohorts as well, just on the flanks to do the same thing. They got around the back. They caused a lot of problems, and I think that was pretty good. Now, as far as the new units, the Ark of Sotek and the Thunderous one, I just don't think are very good. We'll probably get the Ancient Salamanders. Those guys are just so damn good. And they have 185 range. The only thing the Empire has that could really punish these guys would be like a cannon, but they're still tanky enough that I think they're going to last long, especially with Manticores flying around and all sorts of stuff like that. Now, from here, we just need a couple cav units to try and contest the mobile game. I really want to get like the Ripperdactyls, but even still, like big targets, these guys can outrange the guns, right? So they can just sit on the Empire guns and just take them apart, which is going to be super efficient. And this is a very different style of play, though. I don't think we're going to be going for like, it's more like shoot those salamanders, kind of pick your opponent apart a little bit. We could even cut down the front line because, I mean, to beat the state troops, we don't need too much. Yeah, but I think getting those guys, like those little skinkies to like kind of poke, we could even get the javelins, actually. I think that might be a little bit more efficient. So let's go ahead and do this. And where are you at? Where are you at, little buddies? That's right. I always forget they're in like missile infantry. So we still have quite a bit of gold. We could go with horned ones if we want to go like with a really balls deep style, like aggressive play using the curse and, the skink priest here with all the different buffs and stuff. But I think without like going with Lore of Light and the Barona's Time Warp, it's not going to be quite as effective. So we could go with like a more defensive style of play, like using a couple of these guys, just the cold ones plus the Saurus Old Blood mixed in. And I could have sworn he had anti-large on his mount before, but maybe that was something that got changed. We don't really need Foe Seeker. We can cut that. So I think something like this, like a very defensive style of play, just being a little bit obnoxious with the salamanders, could be pretty good. We could mix in like a couple little, chameleon skinks to just poke and get around the back. And I really do like the Colossadon Hunters, but they're just such a risk against missile units. But maybe if you pick apart your opponent's business with the Ancient Salamanders, these guys could come in and really do some good work. But if Carl's up in the sky, and you have the Skink Priest in the skies with the Manticore, yeah, they should be able to beat Carl. So I guess we could cut like one Saurus. The Colossadon Hunters could actually have a decent niche here, but we could actually just go a little bit safer and get the Cohort, which doesn't rampage. Really, really good anti-large tool. And from here, do we want to get some hunting packs? The hunting packs might not be bad. We could cut like one of the skinks here in the front, just get a hunting pack, and then just get another skink. Yeah, I kind of like this actually. So you have the Ancient Salamanders to kind of poke and do their work. You have an anti-large kit right here. You're a little bit less vulnerable in terms of big targets. You have the Manticore summon. This is certainly, I think, a pretty powerful build. So again, very well played by my opponent. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the game as well as the post-game breakdown. We will see you guys next time. Take care.